Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, here's something you've never seen before. This is an old Marx 400 I pulled out of the parts box, and it was very badly broken, as you see. And I sawed the front of it off, and I installed a Marx 666 front cowling. And the reason I did that was I wanted to see if the front cowling from a 666 would fit the 400. And it does. And so I've got this cowling off a 400, and the body was in, or the shell was in fairly poor condition, but it was still usable. So, taking the cowling that I sawed off the 400, I have transferred it to the 666. So, I wanted to use this cowling on another project, which left a big gaping hole in this shell. So, I took the 400 cowling, rounded it, epoxied it in place, and painted it black. And this is a 666 that arrived several weeks ago, and it was just eaten alive with oxide, as you can tell. And it was in really, really terrible condition, but it's usable. So I put that 400 cowling in there, epoxied it in place, painted it black, put a motor in it. That's a single reduction motor, just I turned the front mounting bar around backwards so it'll mount in the 666. And I have the cowling I needed, and I still have a complete runnable 666. In this case, made entirely from junk. And I can't even say parts. This is made entirely from junk. And as you see, that front cowling doesn't actually look too bad on there. And I just cut it off the 400, rounded it to the correct dimensions, slipped it into place, and then epoxied it, and then, like I said, just painted over it. And it gives you a complete runnable engine that actually looks quite respectable. You would never know, or a layman would never know, that that is not an original part. It fits fairly well. So I'll put a couple of fake screws in the screw holes in the side, and just epoxy a couple small screws in there, and it's up and running. It does run. Let me turn the power on. And like I said, that cowling doesn't look bad at all. The alternative, of course, is a huge gaping hole in the front of a 666. This is a really simple way to repair it if you don't want to spend the $12 or $15 to buy this cowling. And of course, I did not want to do that. So I just took this one to use on a much better locomotive. I'll clean this up and it'll be all right. But in the meantime, I didn't want to waste this shell. So I just wanted to see if it was possible to cut the front off of 400 and then modify it to replace the cowling in a 666. It works. Let's take this around. As you see, so that runs really well, and it is made entirely from junk. And you would never know that is not the original cowling. Like I said, a layman would never know that was not the original cowling. So it works, and it's a really, really inexpensive alternative to having to buy that entire front cowling for that 666. And as you see, this looks quite good. You would never know that that is just hodgepodge out of an old broken 400. I just literally sawed the front of it off, ground it down to the correct diameter, put some epoxy on it, tapped it into position, filled epoxy around it so light doesn't shine through, and then painted over it. And just sprayed it with a couple coats of black. You can still see the 400. But even close up, this does not look bad at all. Now remember, this shell was junk. This thing was just absolutely eaten alive. And as you can see, it's in just terrible condition. It's all pitted. The metal was actually beginning to turn to powder in several places. But anyway, I needed the cowling for a different project, and I figured that would be the perfect place to get it from, because the cowling itself is in fairly decent shape. And so, like I said, I didn't want to leave that big gaping hole, so I thought I would do a quick experiment to see if I could transplant the cowling off the 400 into that hole. And as you can see, the results are more than acceptable. like I said, considering the alternative, you either have to buy one or you have a junk, unusable shell with no front on it, no cowling on it at all. But in this case, it worked really well. It took, I don't know, probably about half an hour, 40 minutes, I guess. It was all trial and error. Grind it, see if it fits, grind it, see if it fits. And finally got it to fit actually quite well. And you would never know, like I said, a layman would never know that that is transplanted onto a 666 off of a 400. So I got the part that I need, and this will be going on a much nicer shell. But in the meantime, I also still have a runnable engine. And this is really simple to do. It's a bit time consuming because you have to cut away lots and lots of plastic. But when it comes right down to it, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that, a few drops of epoxy and a bit of black paint, and you have a runnable locomotive. And in this case, made completely out of junk. Not even out of parts, out of the parts box. This was just pure junk, all of it. So I just wanted to do a quick video on this. It works, it looks nice, it only takes literally a few minutes to do it. It's time consuming because it's slow and all handwork. But once you get this to fit, you can tap it into position, put a few drops of epoxy on it, spread it out, let it set, and you have a new front for the Marx 666 that didn't cost you anything. It looks nice, it runs well, and it's far from perfect, but it is a runnable locomotive. Like I said, I'll put 2 fake screws in there just to fill those holes. Just epoxy them into position, paint over it, and you have a runnable locomotive. In this case, it's just a single reduction motor, no rear truck, no front truck, made entirely out of junk. But the entire point of the experiment, of course, was to see if I could fabricate a new cowling for this 666 so I wouldn't have to buy one. And this looks actually quite acceptable. No one would ever know that that was just hand-worked, chopped off a Marx 400. The only thing that gives it away is the 400 marker that's on the top. Other than that, this actually looks fairly decent, considering what it's made out of. But anyway, I just wanted to do a quick video on this. Really simple to do it, a bit time consuming, like I said, because it's all handwork. But it gives you a usable locomotive that doesn't look bad. And in this case, made entirely out of junk. And it's a lot of fun to do this. And you learn a lot. In this case, now I know if I ever get a Marx 666 minus the front cowling, rather than having to buy one, spend 12, 15 bucks on it, I can make one out of a Marx 400. It's a good trick to know. It looks nice. You would never know that that is not original just by casually looking at it. You'd have to pick this up and examine it. It works. That's the neat thing about it. It looks nice and it gives you a runnable locomotive made entirely out of junk. So I just want to do a quick video. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email, BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.